All right. I want to communicate with you all about what I believe the definition of fierce leadership is. And I know that from the talks that you've just engaged, that I'm going to discuss a few of the details, but I'm going to do it in my way for you today. So my name is Dr. Shaquita Howard Bostic, and I am the Associate Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity at Shepherd University. I've been at Shepherd now for 9 years. And during my time that I've been here, I have been through a lot in terms of understanding what my leadership role is on the campus and in the community. And I'm sure that in the many roles that you all have played as well, that leadership has been a journey. But what I really want to talk to you today about is the type of leader that I hope that you are, and that I hope you become if you are not already. And first and foremost, to me, leadership is all about collaboration. So for you, if leadership means telling somebody what to do or having some type of transaction occur, I'm going to tell you that I would like you to center everything around this word called collaboration. So this is who I need you to be. I need you to be a fierce leader. And this is someone who understands rules. So I'm probably going to ask you to say this stuff, and I don't care if you're muted or not, but I need you to say to yourself, understand rules. You need to be a leader who understands the rules, and you are probably going to be the most efficient and innovative person on the team or close to. So this means that you don't, not only do you understand rules, but you know how to do things in a way that you get things done and that you make sense of what it is. You do things in a timely manner, and you try to be creative with whatever it is that you're doing. And understanding the rules doesn't mean that you have to do what all the rules say, per se. It means that you need to understand the rules because sometimes the rules need to be changed. So understanding the rules is very important because sometimes the rules are not written appropriately and sometimes they need to be adjusted. So you need to understand the rules so that we can make sure that the rules are positioned so that we can do the best for people and treat people in the most human way as we can. Not just following what you believe is good for the people who look like you or who walk like you and talk like you, but so the rules work for all people who are human. I was participating in a talk about 2 weeks ago, and the speaker told me that the best type of advice that she could provide to anybody right now in her life was for you to fight for all human rights. Not just the rights of the people who look like you and walk like you and talk like you, but the rights of all human beings and understanding the rules so that you can make that be something that happens efficiently and innovatively. The next type of leader that I want you to be, a fierce leader, is a fierce leader who understands that challenges require adaptive change. And when you talk about adaptive change, that's a type of change that requires you to do things differently. It requires everybody to have to give up something. Everybody has to give, not just the type of change where you tell somebody to do something how you want it to be done, but that when you request change, change has to happen a little bit for everybody, and it has to happen over time. You have to be patient with this idea of change. You can't go in expecting, this is the new rule, everybody do it the way I want you to do it tomorrow. You have to understand that it takes experience, it takes time, it takes a lot. Emotional responses and everything for change to happen. So it's not something that happens overnight. And you have to understand that too and be patient with people. I also want you to be the type of fierce leader that communicates or converses across political divides. I had a training one time and I talked with a group of students about how important it was to have people of different political backgrounds at the table when you had the conversation. And of course, we're not going to always like what everybody has to say. Absolutely not. We're not going to like what everybody believes in, but in order to create change, everybody has to be at the table. Everybody has to be at the table. And so that's sometimes difficult for us to process because sometimes we don't want people at the table if we don't want them eating with us. Next, you also need to be the type of leader who values interactions that are relatable and personable. Because Captain Crunch or whoever you think you are, you're not the boss of me. And so when you communicate with me and when I communicate with you, I'm not going to communicate in a disrespectful way and look down upon you or talk down upon you when I'm speaking to you. I'm going to balance my expressions. I'm going to balance both the strengths and my vulnerability because I understand that that's what it takes to build relationships, that relationships aren't going to be built through disrespect, but instead they're going to be created through personable and relatable interactions. That's a balance. And everybody has a different type of personality that you're going to deal with, introverts, extroverts, outgoing, ingoing, whatever you are. Don't try to be the captain of the league, you know, and do it in a way that you're bossing everybody around in a way that you make people feel small or little or like they don't exist. You're pulling away from the sense of belonging when you do that. You're creating problems. It's not healthy, actually, because when you lead, you also have to follow. And how difficult is it for you to follow when you treat people in a very disrespectful way? Because you're not going to want to get that back in return, are you? Because you're telling people to model you and emulate your excellence. But if you're doing it in a way that's not personable or relatable or in a way that is disrespectful, then how do you think that's going to happen for you in return? And you definitely won't like it. So fierce leaders also are smart enough to have an accountability partner. So many people think that they can live in the world alone, live in this world on their own, and that you can do this without seeking out people who will be there for you. And so you need people to encourage you in many different ways. First, you need someone to encourage you not to avoid things that you need to be taken care of. So you need a friend who's going to tell you, hey, you got to get that done. Hey, you need to look at this person eye to eye. You need to address this. You need someone to tell you, oh, you know, that little minimal work that you just did, that's not good enough. You got to put your name on something, and that has to mean something. When you put your name on it, your amazing name, then it has to stand for something. So you can't just turn in anything. You got to turn something in with your name on it. So when you do whatever you do, fierce leader, it needs to be as excellent as you are. Make sure that you can represent yourself and make sure you have an accountability partner who's going to help you to do that. Also, make sure that that accountability partner or those accountability partners don't push you to conspire against somebody. Heck, just because my friend doesn't like somebody or they think somebody's no good, that doesn't mean that they should try to get me to treat somebody like crap. Don't talk down about people. Be good to people. It doesn't matter if those people want to be good to you or not. You keep your head up high and you be the best person that you can. Maybe they'll come around, maybe they won't. But you don't have to put yourself in that negative light. You don't have to be a part of that bad energy. You can carry on, you can move on. And some of us need accountability partners. And note that I said accountability partners with an S on it, because you can't depend on one person to do everything for you. No way you can't. Sometimes you need just a person who's going to help you avoid, or a person who's going to help you to say, this is not good enough, keep going. Or you need somebody to say, wait a minute, you know, you need to step back from that. You know, you need to calm down. Don't treat this person in this way. Check yourself, get it together, be the person who you need to be. And also you need an accountability partner who will just calm you down. Somebody that you can text and say, danger, danger, help, you know, help me. Somebody tell me not to send that email. Please let me be your accountability partner. If you're in a bad mood, don't press send. Don't do it. Do not press send.
Do not send that email. Do not send that text message. Do not press talk on that phone. Do not add phone call. Do not add person. If you're in a bad mood, step away. Step away from whatever it is for a moment. Think about it. Give yourself time, right? Give yourself time. You need accountability partners. You don't have to do this all alone. You don't. You absolutely don't. You're not fierce if you do it all by yourself. You're fierce if you think about a team who can help you to stay successful. And remember, you don't need to depend on one person for all of this, because sometimes one person can't handle all your stuff. You know, some of you got a lot of stuff, you know, and you don't want to put all of that stuff on one person, but you want to develop a team. And please note that I'm not telling you that you can trust this accountability partner with everything. No, I'm not telling you that, but I'm saying that you have special people in your life who help you with certain things. And so you think through that, and you remember, I love to tell people about this toolbox, these tools that you have in your toolbox, and your accountability partners, they add to that stuff that you have in your toolbox, because you're modeling them, they're modeling you, you know, but you be mindful and understand that you don't want to give everything that you're carrying to one person. You want to be mindful of that accountability partner. You want to treat them well too, you know, think about that. So next, now I want to talk to you about 5 success strategies of a fierce leader. And remember, some of our teammates have talked about these success strategies. So I'm going to read these success strategies, and then I'm closing out this PowerPoint, and I'm going to talk to you all about them. All right. So this is what we're going to get out of this presentation. First, we're going to understand that by the end of this presentation and this experience, that we're going to remember civility principles. And most importantly, we're going to be leading by example as fierce leaders. Next, we're going to know how we respect the pains of change. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about what that means, respecting the pains of change, because change is not easy, let me tell you. Whenever you got to change, remember that adaptive change? Change is difficult. And so as the leader, we have to be prepared to absorb that and to soak that in somehow. Number 3, manage political fault lines. So I'm going to talk to you in a little bit about political fault lines, but be thinking about bipartisan communication. Be thinking about different issues that you see, the most dramatic of the issues from both sides, right? And managing the most dramatic of each side, you know, and being able to bring something together with that. And then number 4, grow your emotional capital. We're going to talk about emotional capital. This is serious, because it's one thing to have a social network, but it's another thing to have a social network that is flourishing of emotional power and capital. And then last, we learned a lot about this already, acknowledging blind spots and your misbehavior. And first and foremost, you know, you're not perfect. You don't do everything correctly. We don't do everything right as leaders. We make mistakes all the time. And so we have to understand that. I like to tell people, you know, I'm entitled to make at least 26 mistakes a year. I just come up with a random number. I don't know how many mistakes I'm on right now, but I'm telling you, I don't have many left. But I like to tell people that you're going to make mistakes as a leader. And you know what? It is perfectly okay to make a mistake. What is not okay is not telling somebody that you messed up. You know, when you try to hide it, that's when it becomes a problem, because nobody is perfect. So fierce leaders make mistakes sometimes, but they admit to those mistakes, and we understand that it's okay. So now let me chat with you a little bit about remembering your civility principles and leading by example. Okay. So first and foremost, so civility principles, these are like guidelines and policies, and they're not like rules. They may be written or not, but they really constitute like a culture of conduct. And so they are appropriate and spoken, written social conduct. So the behavior that is appropriate And it's all about treating individuals appropriately. And it's about having guidelines for even specific populations of people. So there are different types of social conduct that you engage in for different groups of people. And sometimes people don't understand that. So what I want you to understand here are that, you know, there are certain things that you can say and certain things that you can't say. So we'll talk later about understanding your power and your privilege, but please note that when we have these principles that we engage in, you need to know your position and understand that your voice has power. So when I enter the room, I know that I am an African-American woman from the city of Buffalo, New York. And I know that also there's an external and an internal interpretation of who I am. So that means that I feel like I'm very, you know, silly sometimes. I know that I'm outgoing, but sometimes the external is that I walk into a situation and people see me as Dr. Shquita Howard Bostic, associate professor of whatever. When I go home to Buffalo, New York, people see me as the little girl who grew up on Laurel Street. They don't know that I have a PhD in anything. They understand me from the context that they knew me before. Now, when I walk on the streets of Washington, D.C., nobody knows that I'm from Buffalo, New York, in the city of anything, or that I have a PhD in anything anywhere. They see me based upon external characteristics, and they begin to judge me and perceive of me based upon the social indicators that they know of. So I can start talking about language and I can start using a bunch of big words if I want to. People have an external context by which they communicate with me, and they sometimes have an internal context, right? Because they understand more about me from the inside out and where I've been and who I am as a person. So I want you to understand that these principles of communication, sometimes you have to understand what people see of you, you know, before you say anything or before they know who you are, and then what they think of you from the inside because they have relationships with you. And so you may not like it. You may not like what society has in mind for you and of you, but you need to understand kind of who you are and what your power is, so that when you go to negotiate realities and communicate with people, that you're not actually being offensive because they read you in a way that you don't want them to read you. You have to take your time with them and have them to get to know you and slowly walk them into understanding the person that you want to be. And that takes a lot of power to do that. It takes a lot of patience to do that. And sometimes people are going to offend you when it takes them too much time to understand who you really are, but you have to be patient in that and authentic with that. Now, for some people, if you have privileges that other people don't, this might not hit as hard, you know, because people may not be judging you as harshly as they would other people. But I need you to think about your civility principles and what happens when people talk to you in ways where they don't know you, but they're judging you based upon your outward shell. It's kind of like a car, you know. You have many different types of cars that exist. You have certain cars that look a certain way on the outside, but then on the inside, those cars run differently. Every car is different, no matter what culture it comes from. I need you to understand that. But at the same time, you have to understand that your shell may represent something that somebody saw that they've seen before. But how your car runs, how you work on the inside, it takes time for people to get to know that and to understand that. And so you have to still be civil in that process as a fierce leader and help them to understand who you are. It requires an enormous amount of effort and understanding, especially of the communities that you do not contact regularly or those that you are engaged in oftentimes, because sometimes people think they know you on the inside, but they don't, right? But they don't. And so when you engage this understanding your civility principles and you begin to do this, this is when you start modeling accountability. You start modeling accountability and connectivity. So this connectivity, this is about this. So when I want to get close to someone, a little bit closer to someone who doesn't really know me, I start to think about like credibility and reliability. So I want to show myself as somebody that you can trust, somebody that you can rely on. And then I also want to understand what you say you won't do and what you say you can't do, what you won't do and what you can't do. And then we start negotiating from there. So now I understand what bothers you. I understand what you don't like. And then we start to talk and we start to get to know each other. But we do it in ways that are transparent. And we do it in ways that we allow each other to reflect. So what I'm telling you here is that fierce leaders operate even beyond normative standards, but you are innovative actors who can communicate effectively with people, whether they understand you or not. And that takes a lot of power and privilege to do that, and patience. Number two, have respect for the pains of change. And this means that you have to consider this idea that change is defined by the loss that occurs during times of change. So you have to understand that when you say, I want things to change, that you are telling people that they are going to lose something. And you have to be able to speak honestly with somebody about the sacrifices that they're going to make during change. Because sometimes the main problem that people have when you want change to occur is that you're talking about all of this positive stuff. Oh, it's going to be so great. We're going to change this and we're going to have this new stuff, da, 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 da. You need to talk to people about sacrifices, and you have to talk to them about building capacity and the critical thinking that is involved when they may lose something, because everybody's going to have a different change story. And so when people think through those change stories, then their mindset can be aligned with whatever that change process is going to be. So I want you to understand that adaptive process can be challenging for other people. So as a leader, you want to stay in tune with the loss that will occur when change is happening for all the people around you. And that is about being sensitive also. And that makes sense to me in terms of change. So if you want people to feel better about change, be honest with them and talk about the potential losses that can occur. It doesn't mean that you have to be negative about it, but just allow them to have their own change story. Let them have their own change story. Let them own it and communicate with them about it and understand what they can't do and what they won't do in that process of loss. Now, next, political fault lines. So the political fault line, and this is about managing political fault lines and encouraging work within polarized groups. Hard stuff, but you're a fierce leader. I know you've got this. So a political fault line is the exact predictable point of polarization and controversy. So there are power dynamics here, traditions, strict rules about how people are going to act, what they won't tolerate, what they hate, all these things. And usually it is toxic. It's very toxic, and there are opinions and behaviors that you probably won't like, but you have to be patient enough and you have to be positive enough to deal with this in order to create change. You have to acknowledge your biases when you're understanding this, because you have to be able to listen and you have to be able to make the mutual connections. Again, this goes back to modeling that accountability, showing people that you're credible, reliable, and doing this in an intimate way, in a very passionate way, a way with respect, showing them that it matters that you care about what's going on. You have to care. And if you don't care, you need to find a way to care. And that's the thing about fierce leaders. You have to find a way. You have to find something on all sides that matter. And that's so hard. But I'm telling you, usually when people are passionate about something, there is something meaningful in there. You just have to figure out what it is. And that means sometimes you have to talk to people. You have to listen. Whole body communication, whole body listening. And so fierce leaders, from this perspective, do not avoid difficult questions. You've got to take the difficult question. You have to be ready for it. And so being a fierce leader is difficult, but I know you can do it. And so the goal here is to understand this power of the diverse polarized perspectives, because we want to create this very healthy, debiased space for solutions. So you've got your radical sides here and you want to find a way to pull in. And remember, adaptive change is required because these people are going to lose something, but we have to find that central space. And let me tell you something, when you do this, they're not going to like you. I want to tell you right now, if you want to be a fierce leader, you better not be running around expecting everybody to like you, because most of the time, fierce leaders are not really like that much. You know why? Because you're pulling from the most controversial sides and you're trying to make a difference. And maybe they'll find a way in. Maybe they'll find a way to identify with whatever it is, but you're not doing this stuff so that people love you. You're doing it to make a difference. And so sometimes these things happen. Now, understand that diversity of anything yields higher success outcomes. Diversity of anything yields higher success outcomes. Now, next, growing your emotional capital. Emotional capital is the currency of building influence and relationships with others in ways that you promote the emotional intelligence of the people in your circle. If you're a fierce leader, you should be constantly working on creating relationships, passion between people, and you should show people who will carry their mattress. Think about it like this. People who will carry your mattress with grace and pride when you become ill are the people who will not kick you when you're down or hurt you when you're not looking. These are the types of people who you want on your team, people who will be involved in this road to building emotional capital. You need to have people who will not kick your mattress, people who will carry your mattress. That is who you want on your team. So you want to constantly be thinking about developing those emotionally intelligent relationships where you as the fierce leader are the motivations for this type of passion that you want to be around you, because this is the type of energy that you want in your toolbox, that you want to carry in your toolbox. Let me tell you something, take those toxic people out of your toolbox. If they will kick you when you're down, you don't need them in your circle. Bye, get them out of there. 5, last, because I got to stop talking. One of the fiercest attributes of our leadership framework here is to understand your flaws. And I'm going to read these main blind spots to you, and then we're going to engage our Q&A. First, the first blind spot is the failure to understand your power. Please understand your presence and what that means, your energy, and what the heck your perspectives mean in the room. So before you start a conversation, you had better be thinking about what you have to say and what it means to the people who are in the room, because that's how you're going to know how to communicate. You can't just go in there with a speech, not understanding how to impact your audience. Number 2, please think about using the right words and sentiment when you ask for help. Be mindful about how you ask for help. You should be asking for help. Number 3, think about the people who are in your inner circle. Sometimes you're so rough to these people because you think, oh, it's okay, they love me. You better treat the people in your inner circle with the respect that they give you every day, because these are the people who love you. So you can't take all of your frustrations out on them. It's not okay. Call that person when you get off this call, call them and say sorry. Because I know somebody here, one of your fierce leaders here, you were nasty to somebody in your circle and you think it's okay, but it's not okay. Number 4, when you're exhausted, it's still not okay to avoid the difficult question. Find some energy from somewhere and answer that question, okay? Number 5, do not conspire against other individuals. And I talked to you about that earlier. Don't be nasty to somebody just because you don't like what they're about. Don't do it. Don't use your power to hurt somebody. Don't oppress other people. Your job is to empower, not to oppress. Your job is to empower. What's your job? To empower. I hope you said it. Absolutely. 6, don't hide behind your privileges. Don't turn in crap just because you have power. Turn in something that makes sense with your name on it. You're beautiful. Make sure what you turn in has something in relation to that. Number 7, don't hide behind your mistakes. Say you did it wrong. I messed up. I made a mistake. I'll do better next time. Don't hide behind your mistakes. Don't do that. Admit them, learn from them. Number 8, you got to pause sometimes before you cuss somebody out. Don't let me hear of anybody on this call losing it on somebody because you didn't take a pause. You need to pause. And number 9, you can't do it all by yourself. I hope you've met people or you heard somebody talk and you exchanged an email. Don't go to any conference or anything without meeting at least 2 people. So before you get off this call, make sure you meet somebody. That's important. I can't say anything else. I got to stop talking. Thank you. All right. You all we can get on a gallery view now. I need to find folks here. I'm adding spotlights here. I'm trying to do this here. I need help. Annie, help me. Help, Annie. I'm trying to get some spotlights going. Do we have, oh, I see you. I see you, beautiful. Hey. Did everybody have a good time?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, indeed. I did.
Here. We're here. We're all here. All right. 19 chats. What's in the chat? I didn't see the chat the whole time. You're all in here. All right. Can you all start asking us questions? Because let me stop the recording.